We're live from New Delhi, watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Donald Trump to be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States, promises a blitz of emergency decisions, including action against immigration on the eve of his inauguration. Israel releases 90 prisoners under Gaza truce deal. Joyous moment in Tel Aviv as freed hostages reunited with family. Next Gaza hostage prisoner swap to take place on Saturday. TikTok restored services in US after President-elect Trump promises to revive app's access. TikTok thanks Trump for providing clarity and assurance. 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum to begin in Davos. India Cabinet Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw to present nation's vision for inclusive growth and digital transformation at the event. And in sports, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails Indian women and men's teams on lifting the inaugural Kho-Kho World Cup 2025. Well, on to the top story. Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 47th U.S. president today in a star-studded event that will be attended by a galaxy of foreign dignitaries, including India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. The inauguration event was supposed to take place in front of the Capitol, but was shifted indoors due to the freezing weather conditions in the wake of an Arctic blast. Along with Trump, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance will also take the oath of office, following which the former will deliver his inaugural address. Foreign leaders expected at the inauguration are Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Argentine President Javier Milei, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and others. Russian President Vladimir Putin was not invited, though Trump hinted at a separate meeting later. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are also among the notable absences. Early on Sunday, Donald Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery, continuing a tradition for incoming leaders ahead of their inauguration. They were joined by their families, including Melania Trump and Usha Vance, along with National Security Cabinet nominees such as Senator Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Ellis Stefanik and Doug Collins. Well, ahead of his inauguration on Monday, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump addressed supporters at a victory rally in Washington, D.C. The event marked his first major address in Washington since his speech on January 6, 2021, Capitol attack. In his address, Trump said he will pardon many of the more than 1,500 people convicted or charged in connection with the attack. Donald Trump repeated his campaign pledge to launch the largest deportation effort in U.S. history, which would remove millions of immigrants. Trump said he would impose severe limits on immigration on his first day in office, vowing to swiftly fulfill the central promise of his presidential campaign. He also pledged to release classified documents relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 and his brother, Senator Robert Kennedy, and civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., both in 1968.
The border security measures I will outline in my inaugural address tomorrow will be the most aggressive, sweeping effort to restore our borders. We will quickly reestablish control of our sovereign territory and borders. We will expel every single illegal alien, gang member, and migrant criminal operating on American soil and remove the savage gang Tren de Aragua from the United States. Every radical and foolish executive order of the Biden administration will be repealed within hours of when I take the oath of office. We are going to make public remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle Sam.
While U.S. outgoing President Joe Biden on the last day in his office as president upheld diversity and ethnic equality as the soul of the American democracy. He urged fellow Democrats not to lose hope and keep fighting for the principles his party have long cherished. In a symbolic gesture on the last day in his office, the U.S. President Biden took time to visit South Carolina's Black church-going community on Sunday. He also took round of the African American Museum, underlining the blacks' importance as American. At the Royal Missionary Baptist Church in North Charleston, Biden was remembered fondly by political allies and received a standing ovation from church attendees. Joe Biden's visit to South Carolina on his last full day as U.S. president marks the national holiday honoring civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr.
Our nation is not based on religion, ethnicity, or geography, or some ethnic component. We're the only nation in the world, the only one, history of the world, built on an idea. The idea was we're all created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. Standing here, we know we've never fully lived up to that idea. We've never walked away from it either. That black history is American history. Black culture. Black culture is American culture.
Well, on the 20th of January, Donald Trump will return to the White House as Joe Biden steps down, marking a significant shift in the U.S. leadership. As Trump prepares for his second term, experts predict challenges both at home and abroad. Meanwhile, Biden leaves behind a legacy of key achievements, but also faces criticism for many policy decisions. DD India's Mihir Maikuri has more on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next President of the United States, President Donald J.
On the 20th of January, Donald Trump will step back into the Oval Office while Joe Biden exits. This change of guard at the White House is poised to reverberate far beyond US borders. Experts warn that Trump 2.0 could face a range of challenges both domestically and internationally. Addressing key concerns such as inflation, job creation, and workforce issues will be at the top of Trump's agenda. With inflation still a major worry for many Americans, Trump is expected to focus on reducing government spending and boosting domestic energy production.
But it's a political victory.
Trump 2.0 could also lead to detainment and mass deportations of illegal migrants. Geopolitical issues like tensions with China or the Russia-Ukraine crisis require Trump to outline a strong but a measured foreign policy approach addressing both national security and economic concerns. And on climate change, Trump could propose practical solutions like expanding renewable energy alongside traditional energy sources. But this moment also presents an opportunity to assess the legacy Biden leaves behind for his successor. Biden's administration had its share of successes. On his first day in office, Biden rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, reaffirming America's commitment to addressing climate change. The $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan provided much-needed relief to Americans impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including direct payments and extended unemployment benefits. The $1 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act focused on rebuilding critical U.S. infrastructure, funding projects ranging from road to clean energy. Biden's extensive COVID-19 vaccination campaign saw millions vaccinated, playing a key role in curbing the pandemic's impact. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 sought to ease inflation by addressing drug prices, healthcare costs, and boosting clean energy initiatives. Biden also oversaw significant job growth and a notable decrease in unemployment. On the international front, Biden worked to restore and strengthen alliances with NATO and Quad and other democratic nations, reaffirming multilateralism. However, Biden's tenure also faced significant criticisms. The withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, marked by chaos and a swift Taliban takeover, sparked a humanitarian crisis and widespread criticism of the evacuation process. Despite successful vaccine distribution, the administration's messaging on mask mandates, booster shots, and travel restrictions created confusion and backlash. High inflation and economic concerns led to rising living costs, a major issue for many Americans. Immigration and border security challenges plagued Biden's administration, particularly with the surge in illegal immigration and difficult conditions at the US-Mexico border. The Israel-Hamas conflict during Biden's presidency drew international scrutiny, with some claiming the US response was slow and insufficient. What lies ahead for America will depend on how the incoming administration navigates both domestic challenges and complex international relations. Mihir Makri's report for DD India.
And for more, we have Shubhendu Ghosh joining us. Well, Shubhendu, Trump addressed a victory rally yesterday ahead of the inauguration. Tell us about the highlights of the speech, as he's claimed his tenure to have a most extraordinary first 100 days of any presidency. And will Trump's brand new day statement bring significant changes to US?
Good morning, Lipakshi. Well, yes, a big day for America, as many experts say second era of Trump is set to begin. By the time the inauguration takes place, given the time difference, it will be 10:30 p.m. approximately tonight when that inauguration takes place. Talking about that victory speech, we see a reiteration of the key point that really brings him back to the office the second time. In about 230 years of American history, only second time that a president who's lost an election has then again returned to the White House. In his speech, the greatest focus was on the issue of illegal immigration, of border security. He goes on to say that the borders are going to be closed immediately for all illegal immigrants. We also get references to his other priorities in the speech. He speaks about unearthing the liquid gold under the American soil, referring to clearly fossil fuels. And we will see a cut in the climate regulation and the manner in which fossil fuels could be utilized and be in focus again of the American administration. He also talks about revoking and repealing a number of what he calls radical and foolish signatures and acts by the Biden administration. So we may see a number of reversals of what the Biden administration's managed to achieve, particularly in the last few days. Donald Trump also goes on to talk about the manner in which Make America Great Again, that slogan appears a significant number of times in his speech. So broadly, we see those reiteration of all the points that he promised during his campaigning, and this was his victory speech. He also spoke about the grand nature of victory that was achieved by him, which is also historically in many ways as a Republican leader. So in that sense, all eyes now on the manner in which these promises, these slogans will translate into actions. About 100 to 200 executive orders are expected, many experts say, on day one after Donald Trump takes charge.
Right, Shubhendu. Also, in addition to immigration, Trump vowed emergency action as far as TikTok is also concerned.
That's right. There's been a lot of interest around the manner in which TikTok legislation has played around. We know that yesterday, just a day before, after the last day of Biden administration, TikTok had gone off air, saying that the law of the land does not permit them to operate normally. But then an assurance came from Donald Trump that he's likely to repeal. He's like to give them some window of operation before a final deal could be negotiated about the manner in which TikTok could prevail. And we saw that in a matter of hours, TikTok again returned to the American user. So in that sense, what Donald Trump decides on TikTok, it will take some day. It will not happen in just a day. There may be a few days period when a final decision is taken. But his decision and his poise appears is different from what the Democrat leader had
Absolutely.
believed.
Also, Shubhendu, very quickly, if you could tell us how might Trump's promise to impose severe immigration restrictions and release classified documents impact his administration's relations with both domestic and international communities there?
Well, that is the most ambitious decision and action that he will have to undertake, the part about illegal immigration. He promised getting America rid of, pushing out some 11 million illegal immigrants. That's a huge number. there is still no plan in place about where these immigrants will go. He does say that there would be a certain third country where these immigrants may be pushed to, but that deal still has to take shape. So in that sense, recognition, identifying these immigrants, rounding them up, sending them out, this could be one big action. The manner in which it is carried out would also invite a lot of global attention.
Right.
So in that sense, it's a challenging task ahead. About the release of those classified documents, what those documents contain would in fact determine the manner in which they're taken, Lipakshi, once they're out in public domain.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shubhendu, for all those details. And in Canada, former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland launched her campaign on Sunday to replace Justin Trudeau as Liberal Party leader and Prime Minister. She pitched herself as the best option to oppose incoming US President Donald Trump. Freeland had been one of Trudeau's closest allies in government since the Liberals swept into office in 2015. She also served 4 years as finance minister until her dramatic resignation last month. In a scathing resignation letter, she accused Trudeau of putting his own political interest above the urgent need to prepare Canada for the potential threats of the incoming Trump administration, including a possible trade war. Freeland's departure was seen as a devastating blow that pushed Trudeau to announce his plans to leave office. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Trucks carrying humanitarian aid enter Gaza after the long-awaited truce comes into effect. Orthodox Christians in Russia and Ukraine take traditional Epiphany dip in icy waters. And firefighters make progress on Los Angeles wildfires, but dangerous weather threatens new outbreaks as Trump plans California visit after inauguration. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. As part of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, 90 Palestinian prisoners and detainees were released on Monday. The release of the Palestinian prisoners was met with celebrations in Betunia, with fireworks lighting up the sky as 2 buses carrying the released prisoners arrived. The ceasefire, which came into effect on Sunday, brings an end to over 15 months of conflict between Israel and Hamas. The deal was brokered by Qatar, Egypt and the United States and includes provisions for the release of hostages and prisoners as well as a temporary truce. Well, 3 Israeli hostages, Romy Gonen, Doron Steinbrecher and Emily Damari, have finally reunited with their families after being released from captivity in Gaza on Sunday. It was an emotional and heartwarming reunion as the hostages were in tears and were tightly embraced by their smiling loved ones upon their arrival. Damari, who had lost 2 fingers when she was shot the day she was abducted, could be seen smiling and embracing her mother as she held up a bandaged hand. Elsewhere in Tel Aviv, hundreds of Israelis cheered outside the defense headquarters as they watched a live broadcast from Gaza showing hostages' release on a giant screen, part of the ceasefire deal.
it's a beautiful day. After so long, we got a beautiful day. There is 3 hostages, young hostages, returning home.
I'm super excited. This is the first time we've seen her since that day, October 7th, and we didn't had any signal for life from her for a whole year now. And this is the first time we're seeing her, and we're seeing her walking on her 2 feet, and we're just waiting here to hug her and say how much we love her.
It was very stressful days, and not knowing if she's going to be on the list or not, and now seeing her and see that she can walk, and yeah, it's a really big relief.
Well, Professor Itai Pisach, the director of Safra Children's Hospital, informed that all 3 hostages were in stable condition and were reunited with their families. He, however, added that medical examinations would take a number of days.
I'm happy to report that they are in stable condition. That allows us and them to focus on what is the most important thing for now, is reuniting with their families. They are reunited with their families, and we will continue to monitor their clinical condition. This will take a few more days until we complete all the examinations that are needed and treat whatever we find within these within the World Cup that we will perform.
Well, hailing the release of Israeli hostages in exchange of Palestinian as part of the Israel-Hamas truce deal, U.S. President Joe Biden claimed he put his highest efforts and weight behind the deal.
Today's ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages is a result of a principled and effective policy that we presided over for months. And we got here without a wider war in the Middle East than many predicted. And now it falls on the next administration to help implement this deal. I was pleased to have our team speak as one voice in the final days. It was both necessary and effective and unprecedented.
And for more, we have Amit Mukherjee joining us. Well, Amit, as we know, with the 6-week first phase of the truce, Hamas is expected to release 33 captives and Israel is slated to free about 1,900 Palestinians. What's behind this uneven exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners?
Well, Lipakshi, a lot of people are calling it uneven and it's lopsided. And a lot of people in Israel itself are saying that it's not a very even sort of an exchange that is happening right now. But if you look at the history of it, it has always been like this. And of course, there is another way of looking at it, that Israeli lives are more valuable than Palestinians, because for every single Israeli hostage that is being released, there are 30 Palestinian prisoners who were in various jails in Israel are being released. Now, if you look at what had happened in 2006 also, there's this Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit. He was captured during a cross-border sort of a patrolling and, raid, against whom in 2011, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners were released, which also included Yahya Sinwar, who went on to become the head of, Hamas organization. And he was also the mastermind who was involved in kind of orchestrating the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, during which all these 250 hostages were taken captive and taken away to Gaza. So in a way, Hamas is very well aware of the dynamics of the exchange of prisoners and hostages that happen, and which is why their objective on October 7, 2023 was to take as many Israelis as possible, because the more Israelis they take, the more Palestinians they would be able to free. And which we saw, of course, at the end of the day, despite both the parties had to pay heavy prices, whether it's Israel or Palestinians living in Gaza. Right. We saw what happened in the West Bank and Gaza. So at the end of the day, it's the exchange that's happening, and it's well within, what has been happening in the past. Right. So even if it is unequal or, it's not, as apples to apples the exchange.
All right,
yes.
Amit, if we talk about the present situation, very quickly, if you could tell us, though Israel said their forces had begun to withdraw from parts of Gaza, Hamas signaled that it was moving to reassert control on the territory as there is news that masked gunmen took to the streets in cities devastated by war. An extremely fragile situation there, as the big question still remains, who takes over power in Gaza?
Well, Lipakshi, if you look at the whole deal, it's not the end to the conflict that has been going on. It's a temporary ceasefire, as we have all heard from various parties. So, and this entire exchange is going to happen over a period of 6 weeks or 42 days, where, of course, the 33 hostages who are still who have been captured on October 7th are expected to be released, while Israel is again saying that there are about 94, which includes dead as well as live hostages, who are still in, minus the 3, of course, who were released yesterday.
Yes.
So 91 net, number of hostages, whether it's bodies or live, they are still in captivity. So after these 33, these hostages are released, which of course over 6 weeks. So Israel will constantly be monitoring the situation. They will be talking to the hostages released. So they will try and gauge the situation. And, as we see that since it's a temporary ceasefire, a pause can be put on it anytime. And Israel, if they are not satisfied with the way things are going, they would get back at it, if they think it's not a sort of an even exchange that's happening.
Right. Thank you so much, Amit, for all those details. And moving on, the World Health Organization has expressed its readiness to pour aid into Gaza during the Israel-Hamas truce, saying that it would need systematic access across the territory to do so. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus welcomed the ceasefire, adding that addressing the massive health needs and restoring the health system in Gaza will be a complex and challenging task, given the scale of destruction, operational complexity and constraints involved. While the United Nations health body was ready to scale up the response to address the territory's critical needs, it said in a statement that it is critical that the security obstacles hindering operations are removed. Meanwhile, humanitarian aid trucks entered Gaza on Sunday following a long-awaited ceasefire agreement. The trucks crossed into Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing after a delay due to the dispute over the release of hostages. Well, as the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues, Russia has opened a criminal investigation into allegations that Ukrainian troops killed civilians in a Russian village that had been seized by Kyiv's army. Ukraine has taken dozens of border settlements under its control in the western Russian Kursk region, where around 2,000 civilians still live in areas under its occupation. Russia has been pushing Ukraine back and has retaken a number of villages. Russia's investigative committee, which probes major crimes, on Sunday alleged Ukrainian troops committed the murder of at least 7 civilians who were sheltering in the basement of a residential house in the village of Rasko-Porozhnoye. Several Russian state media outlets had overnight published videos supplied by the army that they said showed Russian troops discovering several dead bodies in a dark basement. And Orthodox Christians in Russia and Ukraine took traditional icy plunge to celebrate Epiphany. Orthodox Christians celebrate Epiphany on the night of 18 to 19 January, with believers plunging themselves into icy seas, lakes and rivers to mark the occasion. Many believe the practice strengthens both the soul and the body. And moving on, firefighters in Los Angeles made headway in controlling wildfires that ravaged Pacific Palisades and Altadena. However, forecasters predict a return of fire-prone weather on Monday. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump plans to visit California after his inauguration to assess the damage, despite previously criticizing Governor Gavin Newsom's response to the fires. Meanwhile, Newsom also announced that 5 major banks will offer mortgage relief to affected homeowners. The Palisade fire is 52% contained, with 23,713 acres burned, nearly 5,000 structures destroyed, and 707 damaged, and 10 fire fatalities reported. The The 18 fires, 81% contained, with 14,117 acres burned, over 9,000 structures destroyed and 1,062 damaged, resulting in 17 deaths due to the fires. Approximately 172,000 people remain under evacuation orders or warnings due to the fires, with worsening Santa Ana winds prompting a red flag warning for Southern California counties from Monday to Tuesday. And still to come in DD India News Hour. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held key meetings with Australia and Japan foreign ministers ahead of Trump inauguration. Quantum of punishment to be pronounced today in the Kolkata rape and murder case. And all updates from Mahakumbh 2025, a historic convergence of faith and celestial alignment after 144 years.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. And time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Donald Trump to be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States promises a blitz of emergency decisions, including action against immigration on the eve of his inauguration. Israel releases 90 prisoners under Gaza truce deal. Joyous moment in Tel Aviv as freed hostages reunited with family. Next Gaza hostage prisoner swap to take place on Saturday. 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum to begin in Davos. India Cabinet Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw to present nation's vision for inclusive growth and digital transformation at the event. And in sports, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails Indian women and men's team on lifting the inaugural Kho World Cup 2025. Well, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is in the Washington, D.C. for the inauguration ceremony of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, held meetings with his counterparts from Australia and Japan. In a social media post, Minister Jaishankar expressed his happiness over his meeting with Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya. The two leaders reviewed progress in bilateral cooperation and also discussed developments related to the Quad. In another post, Dr. Jaishankar said he enjoyed his discussion on the state of the world with Australian counterpart Penny Wong. Quad grouping comprises India, Australia, Japan and the United States. And Speaker of the Lower House of Indian Parliament Om Birla will inaugurate the 85th All India Presiding Officers Conference, East Indian city of Patna on Monday. The two-day conference, which will bring together key figures from legislative bodies across India, will focus on the theme 75th Anniversary of Constitution, Contribution of Parliament and State Legislative Bodies in Strengthening Constitutional Values. The conference will serve as a platform for brainstorming and discussions on the role of Parliament and state legislative bodies in upholding and strengthening the values enshrined in the Constitution of India. While moving on, a Kolkata court will pronounce the quantum of punishment of Sanjay Roy, convicted of raping and murdering as on-duty doctor at the state-run R.G. Kar Medical College and Hospital in the East Indian city of Kolkata. The charges under which Roy has been convicted entail a minimum sentence of life imprisonment, while the maximum can be capital punishment. Roy was guilty of rape and murder of the postgraduate trainee at the hospital on August 9th last year. And now news from the Mahakumbh, the largest religious congregation in the world. Well, the Mahakumbh festival is setting a new example with each of its editions. And in 2025, the Mahakumbh coincides with a rare planetary alignment which happens once in 144 years that brings crores of people to unite at the Kumbh district. To make the execution a grand success, the UP government has executed some mega projects like setting up a modern tent city and installing 30 pontoon bridges. Deepika Mehta has more on this.
Kumbh, the 76th district of Uttar Pradesh, is currently hosting the largest and the oldest congregation of devotees who are visiting in large numbers to participate in the Mahakumbh festival. The festival is even more special this time as it coincides with the rare alignment of planets that happens once in 144 years. The UP government is leaving no stone unturned to make it a world-class event. Interestingly, 30 pontoon bridges, which are often called military bridges, have been set up across the district to facilitate smooth passage. The 30 pontoon bridges, constructed over a period of 15 months for the Mahakumbh, can support up to 5 tons of weight. Devotees from across the country hail the initiative and infrastructure.
ये पीपा पुल बनने से बहुत फायदा है, अपना समय बचता है और इधर के आदमी उधर भी जा सकते हैं, उधर के आदमी इधर भी आ सकते हैं। इतना बढ़िया सुविधा दिया है सरकार, बढ़िया है, सब सुविधा सही है।
ये जो पोंटून ब्रिज बना है इसके बनने से हमें बहुत सुविधाएं मिली हैं। इससे हम बुजुर्गों को भी बहुत फायदा हो रहा है, आने जाने के लिए उनका समय बचता है। वे एक स्थान से दूसरे स्थान पे बहुत आसानी तरीके से जा रहे हैं। इससे महिलाओं को भी बहुत सारी सहायता मिली है, जो कि उन्हें बहुत अधिक समय लगता था जाने में, अब वे आसानी से जा सकते हैं।
The UP government has also set up a tent city that offers accommodations in 4 categories: villa, Maharaja, Swiss cottage and dormitory. With an estimated 45 crore pilgrims expected to visit, these tents will be operational till March 5th. And with this, the UP government has also uplifted the face of Kumbh as the official district, setting a new benchmark for world's largest congregation of faith.
From the installation of 30 pontoon bridge to the establishment of this unique tent city that you can see right behind me, the 76th official district of Kumbh here in Prayagraj is hosting the largest and the oldest congregation of devotees to host the grand Mahakumbh festival. With camera person Shiv Suman, this is Deepika reporting from the Kumbh district here in Prayagraj.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Well, today is the last day for the withdrawal of nomination for Delhi State Assembly polls. 719 candidates remained in the running for the Assembly polls after 1,522 nomination sets, including multiple ones, were presented with the Election Commission for examination. The final list of candidates in each of the 70 constituencies will be published on Monday. Assembly polls in Delhi will be held on the 5th of February. In the major breakthrough in actor Saif Ali Khan's stabbing case, a Mumbai holiday court has sent the accused to 5 days in police custody on Sunday. The accused, identified as Mohammad Shariful Islam Shehzad, has been suspected to be a Bangladeshi resident who entered India illegally and had been living in Mumbai for the past few months. In the major push for infrastructural development in Jammu and Kashmir, the trial of the first 18-coach AC train from Katra in Jammu to Budgam in Kashmir was conducted successfully on Sunday. This marks the successful completion of the ambitious Udhampur-Srinagar-Balamura rail link project. The USBRL project covers a stretch of 326 kilometers and includes the longest railway tunnel in the country. Bandipora region of the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir experienced a fresh spell of snowfall, transforming it into a winter wonderland. Higher reaches, including Gurez, Dawar and Tulel, were also blanketed in snow. Meanwhile, the Indian Meteorological Department has issued a forecast for widespread rain and snowfall across Jammu and Kashmir over the next 5 days due to the influence of 2 approaching western disturbances. And continuing India's ongoing support for Sri Lanka's fishing industry, the High Commissioner of India, Santosh Jha, distributed fishing nets to the fishing community in Jaffna's Point Pedro, Northern Province. Addressing the gathering at the event held at the Point Pedro Divisional Secretariat, Jha emphasized India's commitment to empowering livelihoods and strengthening the historic cultural ties between the two nations bound by the Indian Ocean. The High Commissioner also noted India's significant contributions, including the reconstruction of the Gurunagar fishing net manufacturing factory. And the Bangladesh High Court is likely to hear the bail plea of Hindu monk Chinmay Krishnadas on Monday. Earlier, Sessions Court in Chattogram rejected his plea on 2nd January. Former priest of ISKCON Chinmay Krishnadas was arrested on sedition charges on 25th November last year from Dhaka airport. He's been in jail since 26th November. Bangladesh High Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council had also demanded the release of Das and said that the sedition case filed against 19 people, including Chinmay Krishnadas, is false and harassing. The council demanded the government to acquit them in the sedition case. And in a major decision that would further alienate Myanmar military junta in the region, ASEAN upheld decision to bar Myanmar generals from summits and foreign ministers meeting. The decision to bar Myanmar junta was taken in the foreign ministers meeting of ASEAN that took place in Malaysia's Langkawi retreat on Sunday. While expressing deep concern over the escalation of conflicts and humanitarian situation in Myanmar, a press statement by the chair mentioned that the decision has been taken in view of Myanmar's junta's failure to implement 5-point consensus to resolve the issues facing the Southeast Asian nation. The 5-point consensus called for dialogue among all parties, an immediate halt to the violence in Myanmar, and the appointment of an ASEAN special envoy to facilitate mediation, humanitarian assistance, and a visit by an ASEAN delegation to the country to meet all concerned parties. And in Jammu and Kashmir, security forces along with J&K police launched in Sapor after suspicious activity was observed on Sunday. According to the army, a joint cordon and search operation was launched by the Indian Army and Jammu and Kashmir Police Baramulla district's Gujarpati. The operation was launched after getting specific intelligence input regarding presence of terrorists in the area. The terrorist opened indiscriminate fire when challenged, which was effectively retaliated by the troops. More details awaited as the operation is still in progress. And still to come in DD India News Hour. TikTok restores services in US after President-elect Trump promises to revive apps access. American world number 3 Coco Gauff and Tommy Paul advance to the next rounds with splendid victories over their respective opponents, with us for the latest for 2025 Australian Open. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana. Moving on, the 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum will begin on Monday in Davos, Switzerland. Topics on the Davos agenda span mounting global geopolitical and economic uncertainty, trade tensions, climate goals, and artificial intelligence. During the 5-day-long meeting, around 3,000 leaders from over 130 countries will discuss innovative strategies to revitalize growth, harness transformative technologies, empower individuals and communities, protect the planet, and drive collaboration. Attendees will include European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Donald Trump, who will be sworn in on Monday, will address the meeting virtually on the 23rd of January. And India's Minister for Railways, Information Broadcasting and IT, Ashwini Vaishnaw, will be participating in the World Economic Forum 2025 at Davos. Vaishnaw will present nation's vision for inclusive growth and digital transformation at the event. Before his departure to Davos, Minister Vaishnaw stated that there is significant interest at the World Economic Forum in understanding India's thought process, the Prime Minister's economic policies and the country's digital transformation initiatives.
Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has put huge focus on inclusive development and a growth which brings a big transformative change in the lives of the people at the bottom of the pyramid, people who have been left out of development over many decades in the past, whether it is bank accounts, whether it is providing toilets, gas connections, whether it is having tap water connections, getting the basic infrastructure in the villages done, infrastructure in the urban areas done. This is all highly, this is something which the world wants to understand, and in the World Economic Forum at Davos, there is a lot of interest in understanding our thought process, Prime Minister's economic policy about the digital transformation.
Well, moving on, TikTok began restoring its services in the U.S. after President-elect Donald Trump said he would revive the app's access in the U.S. when he returns to power on Monday. TikTok also issued an earlier statement after U.S. users reported being able to access the Chinese-owned service's website, while the far more widely used TikTok app itself began coming back online for some users with just a few basic services. TikTok stopped working for U.S. users late on Saturday before a law shutting it down on national security grounds took effect on Sunday. U.S. officials had warned that under Chinese parent company ByteDance, there was a risk of Americans' data being misused. Trump said the executive order would specify there would be no liability for any company that helped keep TikTok from going dark before his order.
But starting tomorrow, I will act with historic speed and strength and fix every single crisis facing our country. We have to do it. And as of today, TikTok is back. So they'll have a partner, the United States, and they'll have a lot of bidders, and the United States will do what we call a joint venture. And there's no risk. We're not putting up any money. All we're doing is giving them the approval, without which they don't have anything. So, I don't know, it sounds like that works. What do you think? Good?
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The death toll from the explosion of a petrol tanker truck in Nigeria has risen to 86. The truck carrying 60,000 litres of gasoline exploded after flipping over a road linking the federal capital Abuja to the northern city of Kaduna. Another 52 people suffered severe burns from the explosion. Hundreds of Salvadorans are protesting the newly approved law that reactivates metallic mining in the country. On December 23rd, Congress, with 57 of the 60 lawmakers loyal to President Nayib Bukele, passed a law reactivating metallic mining in the country, which had been banned since 2017. And several thousand people marched from Place du Trocadero in Paris for the March for Life. It is an annual demonstration protesting abortion held in Paris in late January, close to the anniversary date of the 1975 law that legalized abortion in France. The event was created in 2005. And time now for some sports updates. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended his wishes as the Indian men's and women Kho-Kho team scripted history on Sunday to be crowned as inaugural World Cup 2025 champions. The Indian men's team replicated their female counterparts' achievement, edging out Nepal 54-36 in a thrilling finale to lift the title. Indian men's team completely lived up to the expectations of a buoyant crowd. Captain Pratik Vaikar, who hails from Pune in Maharashtra, was one of the star performers for the men's team. Early in the day, the Indian women's team eased past Nepal 78-40 in the final. The dominant display from the home side was consistent with its superiority right through the tournament. Indian Prime Minister posted on social media platform X to extend his wishes for both the teams. He said, and I quote, "Incredibly proud of Indian men's Kho-Kho team for winning the Kho-Kho World Cup title. Their grit and dedication is commendable. Prime Minister also hailed the women team, saying this triumph has brought more spotlight to one of India's oldest traditional sports, inspiring countless young athletes across the nation, unquote. And in tennis, American world number 3 Coco Gauff defeated Switzerland's Belinda Bencic to return the quarterfinals of Australian Open in Melbourne on Sunday. Gauff lost a final set of the year to open her contest again against Bencic. The 27-year-old Swiss was put on the back foot when Gauff came out firing. She forced the decider by winning the second test. Gauff will face Spain's Paula Badosa, who reached the last 8 for the final time by beating Olga Danilovic. Badosa had to rally from 5-2 down to get past the Serbian in straight sets and reach her second straight Grand Slam quarterfinals. Meanwhile, in men's single, Tommy Paul was the first man to book a spot in the last 8 with a 6-1, 6-1, 6-1 win over Spain's Alejandro Forquina, who looked exhausted after back-to-back 5-setters in the last 2 rounds. While Alexander Zverev booked an Australian Open quarter-final clash against Tommy Paul after surviving a mid-match wobble to oust France's Hugo Humbert. And Yibi Jansen's double penalty corner conversion propelled Odisha's Warriors to a 4-1 win over Bengal Tigers in their Women Hockey India League match on Sunday. Warriors' third victory in front of their home crowd have taken them to the top of the table. Michelle Phillett opened the scoring for the Warriors early in the second quarter before Yibi Jansen doubled their lead just minutes later. The Tigers pulled one back thanks to the Udita's drag flick towards the end of the first half. However, the Warriors killed off the match in the fourth quarter, with Jansen scoring a second and captain Neha Goel also piling on the Tigers' misery.
गोल नंबर 3 आपके लिए विमेंस हीरो HIL में पहला पीसी उसी में फट्टा खड़का दिया।
And meanwhile, in men's category, Kalinga Lancers came from behind to win a high-scoring thriller against Delhi Pipers on Sunday. Goalkeeper Toby Reynolds caught a reel, saved it thrice in penalty shootouts as Kalinga Lancers made a massive comeback to pip Delhi Pipers in an action-packed match. As the men's league entered its second phase, Lancers rode on Alex Hendricks and Thierry Brinkman's braces to erase a 3-goal deficit as the two sides were locked 5-5 in the regulation period. Lancers won the shootout 3-2 to record their 4th win and make thousands of home fans happy, while Pipers suffered their 7th consecutive defeat. And before we wrap, Argentine singer-songwriter Fito Páez delighted his fans with a free concert in Mexico City's iconic Zócalo Square. Páez took fans on a journey through his 40-year music career that has spanned generations. The free concert was just one highlight of Páez's current Páez 4030 tour, commemorating the 40th anniversary of his debut album, Del 63, and 30th anniversary of his 8th album, Circo Beat. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DT India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DT India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DT India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DT India News Hour.